It's BetParx Saturday, live from the sports book here at Parx Casino in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Jeff Skversky, alongside my producer, Andrew Frazier. Happy New Year. It is finally January and playoff football right around the corner for the Philadelphia Eagles. We have a jam-packed show today, taking you from 12 to 2. Former Eagles first-round pick Marcus Smith is going to join the program. We're going to talk to Marcus about this Eagles football team. Of course, he played for the Commanders, also played for the Seahawks. We're going to get his thought on just how dangerous this Eagles football team is. We're also going to catch up with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Are the Eagles on the verge of a dynasty? We'll talk to Dave about that. Plus, of course, our sports gambling expert, Brad Feinberg. He'll join the program. He'll give her Brad's best bets. And we're also going to catch up to Phil Martelli, the legendary St. Joe's coach. A lot has gone on the last few weeks in college basketball and college athletics, the state of college basketball and college sports. Phil's going to get into that, some strong takes about that. We go down memory lane about that amazing run that he had in March Madness with that 03-04 team. And he also is going to talk about Delonte West. If you don't know his story, he has struggled with mental health as well as substance abuse. We're going to talk to Phil Martelli about Delonte West as Phil and others, including Mark Cuban, has tried desperately to help the former St. Joe's and NBA star. So, of course, January, we are in the new year, 2026. I don't know about you, I feel a little banged up, a little tired from the holidays and traveling and everything going on. So imagine how the Eagles feel. Banged up, right? So the decision to rest the starters in the finale against, of course, the Washington Commanders. Look, the Eagles can still get that 2 seed, right? Let's lay everything out here. The Eagles can still get that 2 seed. For the Eagles to get the 2 seed in the playoffs, they need to win. They also need the Detroit Lions to lose to the Chicago Bears. So you need the Bears to win. You need the Eagles to win. Then the Eagles would lock up the 2 seed, would face the Green Bay Packers, who they beat earlier this season by 3. Then the Eagles would be guaranteed 2 home playoff games. If the Eagles stick to that 3 seed, where they currently stand right now, they will either face the Rams or the 49ers and get only 1 home playoff game. That's all they're guaranteed. They could get more. We saw it last year. They got some more. So the question is, did Nick Sirianni make the right decision here to rest Jalen Hurts and the starters? I think it's obvious. I think the answer is yes, because this team needs rest mentally. They need rest physically. This team, of course, has had a real tough season. Even though they're in play for the 2 seed, it has just been a real struggle. Guys are banged up. Jalen Carter with the shoulder injuries. Of course, he played amazing against the Bills. Lane Johnson. And I also think the mental rest this team really needs. So I think Nick Sirianni made a very, very smart decision here to rest the starters. By the way, Tanner McKee's still capable of winning this game against the Commanders. The Commanders stink this year. But the higher seed up for grabs, but the rest, in my opinion, and of course the Eagles' opinion here, is much more important. Here's Nick Sirianni on the decision on why to rest the starters. Remember, they did it in the Super Bowl season last year and the Super Bowl season in 2022. Listen to Nick Sirianni.
If I look back and how beneficial some of the buys that we've had have been, right, that's part of the reason why you think through it, right? It's a marathon of a season. You give you guys some rest. You get some time to think through some different things, even though you're preparing for an opponent as you go. And, you know, both times that I've been here that we've been to the Super Bowl, we've had that opportunity for a bye. You know, and that's 22 and obviously 24.
Giving my trust to the coaches and trusting their plans and everything that we do. Obviously, I'm very competitive. Every opportunity we have, I want to take advantage of it and try and go out there and compete at a high level.
You have a bunch of different scenarios. And yes, your seeding's not locked down yet, but you are thinking, hey, can I put ourselves in the best position seeding-wise, but while also you're thinking to yourself how important, you know, buys are and creating them if you don't earn the right for the first round buy. So those are all things you got to think through and go through, because I think a lot of guys would say last year that, you know, that was a big deal of being able to have the bye last year, you know, a built-in bye last year to set us up for what we ultimately did last year.
Yeah, what they ultimately did last year, of course, win the Super Bowl. So again, I misspoke a second ago. There's a lot going on here. So the Eagles, to clinch the 2 seed, they need to beat the Commanders. Eagles need to win, and they need the Bears to lose. They need the Bears to lose to the Lions in the finale. And the Bears, they are planning on playing their starters. So we'll see. There is some drama there between Ben Johnson, the old coordinator in Detroit. So we'll see how that plays out. The Eagles are going to do some scoreboard watching. Jalen Hurts says he trusts head coach Nick Sirianni. And there you see it there. What needs to happen for the Eagles to clinch the 2 seed? If not, they get the 3 seed. It'll be the Rams or the 49ers. If not, they will get the Green Bay Packers. All right, let's bring in former Eagles first-round pick Marcus Smith. Played for the Eagles, played for the Seahawks, played for the Commanders, drafted in 2014 out of Louisville. Marcus, how's it going on this fine Saturday?
What's going on, Jeff? How you doing?
Good,
Beautiful
great,
Saturday.
great to
Glad
see
be
you.
here.
How were your holidays?
It was pretty good. I can't complain. Obviously, the flu was running around. My daughter, she ended up having the flu, so we was dealing with that all
Ugh.
Christmas. But otherwise, it was pretty good.
I was just saying, I feel banged up. I can't imagine how the Eagles and some of these NFL teams feel right now. When you look at the Eagles and the Eagles' situation going into the playoffs, there's been some debate. All right, do you rest the team? There's still something to play for. Do you rest Jalen Hurts and the starters? As a former player, how banged up are you this time of the year?
I mean, you're really banged up. You're banged up to the point where it's hard to keep going. A lot of Toradol's, a lot of pills that can help you push forward, but I would say the team is probably banged up. And if you look at it, I mean, obviously you have 18 games, 18-week season now. So it's pretty tough to go into this week. But I know that the mindset for the Eagles, they want to get that 2 seed. If they could get that 2 seed, then man, maybe they could just continue to rest the players and be able to be ready for the playoffs. So that's kind of where I think the Eagles' head is. Like, man, let's win and let's get the 2 seed.
Yeah, Tanner McKee showed he's capable of winning last year. He looked great in that finale against the Giants, and I know it was the Giants and everything else. But when you look at the overall big picture here with the Eagles, from what you've seen this year, do you think this team can just turn it on in the playoffs? It just feels like it's been a struggle this year, and I know they had very, very long season last year with the Super Bowl and the year before, and they've been in the playoffs every year with Nick Sirianni, but the rest is going to be important. But do you think this team can just flip a switch and turn it on in the playoffs when you look at the picture going forward?
When you look at the big picture, when you look at this whole team, it's a very high-powered team, and I believe in Jalen Hurts so much so that they can turn it on. When you look at a lot of the receivers that they have, and they get the ball to my guy, and they get the ball to the running back. Uh, I think it'll be a good win for them, and I think it could be possible that they try to run the ball, get the ball down the field, but then also, get the ball to AJ Brown a lot more in this game or in the playoffs.
It's hard to believe, but this is really, it feels like a championship defense. And I know you played on this Eagles D-line and you played for the Eagles defense. I mean, when you look at this defense now, it's amazing because they lost so many guys. But when you look at the defense, do you feel like this defense is special? Even though the stats, even if you look at the rankings, where they rank around the NFL, it's not eye-popping. I mean, the stats aren't that impressive, but this team, they just look like they're firing on all cylinders with the eye test.
I mean, if you look at it, you got to think like you got BG, you got these guys, you got Jalen Carter on the defensive line. So I think those guys right there can turn it on at any given time. Then you have a great coach in Clinton Hurt right there. He was my coach at Louisville, also my coach in Seattle. So I think that their game plan going into it will be very good to be able to go into to the next in the postseason. I think even with them going all the way to the Super Bowl last year, they have the formula to be able to get there. So we always have to remember those teams that get to the dance more times than not, they have some type of formula to get there. So they turn it on when it gets to the playoffs, and it's almost like, man, the lights cut on, and they turn it on and they perform in a mighty way. So I think we just have to kind of simmer down a little bit, especially as Philadelphia Eagles fans. You want them to be able to play at their best, but you also have to take heed to what Nick Sirianni is saying, and a lot of the coaches are saying, to get these guys ready and get them to be ready to perform at a high level.
Did you say calm down a little bit? What are you kidding me? In this town, it's almost impossible. I mean, I remember, I think about that 2017 Super Bowl season. Week one, I've told the story before. Week one, they're getting booed 90 minutes in at halftime, walking off the field 90 minutes after raising the Super Bowl banner against the Falcons. They're getting booed. You know how this city is. But in any event, when you look around the NFC, there's not a team out there that I go, okay, I'm scared of, right? When I look at the way this Eagles team is built, I don't really go, I'm scared of the Rams or the 49ers. Could they get beat by anybody? But what is your view as you look at the entire picture? Do you believe that there's one team that you go, oh, okay, well, I mean, I know you played for Seattle and they've had an amazing season, but Seattle doesn't scare me either.
Yeah, none of these teams really scare me that much. If anything, I would be a little scared of the Rams just because of their high-powered offense and what they could do. I think they are, an anomaly. And when you look at them, I mean, they do play really well sometimes. So I would look at the Rams maybe to be one of those scapegoats to really look at in this, playoffs. I think the Eagles can beat them, but I think the Rams could give them some trouble. I really do.
You talked about Brandon Graham. You played with BG. What kind of teammate is he? What was it like every day in the locker room with Brandon Graham? How much did he help you, just not only with whether it's technique or learning the playbook and understanding things like that, but even stuff off the field about how to handle yourself? I mean, because, when he came in as a first-round pick, it wasn't a great start for Brandon. And I remember, Brandon telling me, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, thinking he was going to get cut or traded. But then he had that magical turnaround and is now an Eagles legend. What did you learn day in and day out from Brandon Graham?
Well, he actually taught me how to be a pro. Every day that he came in, he was smiling, he was patting people on the back, he was making sure that all his teammates was great. So he taught me also how to be a servant. And being a servant, that's how you become a great leader. And that's why you see the Brandon Graham that you see today. Throughout the locker room and everything that we did, I even had a relationship with Trent Cole and Connor Barwin, but his relationship with me really taught me how to be an absolute pro and how to go about my business. Because at the end of the day, you may have a bad game or you may have a bad day, but when you come in, you're just happy that you're at work and that you're doing something that you love to do. So that's what he taught me. And you can see today, he comes back in, he's a retired guy. He comes back in, he gives that team a spark, still getting sacks. So that's the type of guy that you see. Even on the field, he's the same person, even in the locker room and off the field. So I think BG is a wonderful human being, and I'm just thanking him for continuing to push me to be even greater myself.
Did you see that transformation? And I'm sure you heard the stories, and I'm sure he shared those stories because he's been very open about it, about, coming out of Michigan and struggling early on, trying to find his way with the coaching changes and Chip Kelly and this and that, and it just wasn't working out, and it felt like he was going to get traded. But did you firsthand see that transformation of the Brandon Graham that came out of college, came out of Michigan as a first-round pick like yourself, to the guy he is today?
Oh, for sure. When you think about it, when I came in 2014, right, Brandon Graham, he was going into year 5. So you think about, the Eagles, and you're drafting a first rounder. So now you got competition in the room. So when you look at it and you see that elevated the competition. We had Trent Cole in the room. We had BG. We had Connor Barwin. We had all these guys in the room. And I just think it elevated him to a way that his game just, took off. I know even before that, he had some injury history, but he didn't get hurt. If you notice, he played, a lot of games. I want to say last year or the year before that, he got hurt. But man, he went on a run that was crazy. And I seen that even when I went to Seattle, I got to see him even grow even the more as he was playing with the Philadelphia Eagles and took his game to a whole nother level. So yeah, I got to see it. And it was a great sight to see, even just being in practice and him going up against JP and everybody. It was a fun sight to see.
Yeah, there were some legendary figures on both sides of the line when you played for the Philadelphia Eagles. When you were there, you get drafted by Chip Kelly, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What was it like, those years with Chip Kelly? the way he was as a coach. I mean, people say he's a brilliant offensive-minded coach, and then there's that transition to Doug Peterson. What was your experience the way things went from Chip Kelly to Doug?
Yeah, I think my experience. It was a culture shock for me. Obviously, going into he ran the offense like the Oregon Ducks, but it was a fast paced offense, so you had to get used to being on the field all the time, right? Every almost 40 seconds you're on the field. The ones coming up, and then the twos right after that. So you had to be really conditioned, and I think that was just a culture shock for me. And I had to get used to being out there on the field in a different type of environment, in a different type of way. And I think I struggled a lot with that. They were trying to find a good fit for me. I think I was playing the outside linebacker at first, and then they put me at inside linebacker to try to figure out what was my best fit. And then I end up moving back to outside linebacker. But I think my overall experience with Chip could have been greater for me if I would have done better, as a player. I always look at myself and how I could have competed and been a little bit better in that scheme. But once the other coach Peterson he came, then it was kind of a little bit more better because it was just like when I was in college, right? And so it was kind of the same thing when I was in college. So it was tough at first, but I think I started to get my footing and got my foot right in the door. And then after that, I went to Seattle, and I felt like my career was going in the right way as it should have went.
Yeah, when you got to Seattle, a lot of people talk about how loud Seattle is, and of course the link is loud. Is it just deafening there? Like, can you put into perspective just how loud it is in Seattle? I mean, there's obviously an opportunity that the Eagles could go to Seattle in the playoffs, down the road in a few weeks. But how loud is it there?
It's extremely loud. If you are on defense in Seattle, you really can't hear yourself think. You can't even really hear yourself on the sideline. You got to look at the stadium as well. The stadium is built to keep the sound in. So I think that that's one of the top stadiums to be as loud as possible. But I wouldn't say that the Eagles Stadium, but it's loud there too. It gets pretty loud in the link as well. I think they're neck and neck when it comes to loudness.
You've been very open about this. Your struggles with mental health over the years, and now you work with football players and NFL players, and a lot of that, I guess, started in Seattle. Can you just tell us your story and about why now working with others to help with their mental health, why that's so important to you?
Yeah, super important. Obviously, I've been through a lot myself. It was, you know, anxiety, depression, these things that I didn't address when I was in Philly, when I was in college. It was a lot of things that I didn't address. And I would, tell a lot of people, I would tell players now to make sure you have a team around you, just like you have a physical therapist, just like you have, a trainer. You should always have a therapist as well. And so for me, that was kind of what I dealt with, not having a team of people around me to help me succeed. And so my story is just something that really resonates with a lot of people, and I just relate to the average everyday person and the football player dealing with some of those mental health issues. And so when I talk about those things to them, I think that they resonate with me and they want to get the healing themselves. And so that's all I'm here for. I'm just a bridge for people. I'm just standing in the gap for them and being a listening ear and hearing what they have to say. Because a lot of times, especially as a football player, being a barbaric football player that we are, we don't have a chance to be able to show that side of us. And we get to unmask a little bit and show that side when I get to talk to them. So that's why I do it. Sometimes I have to talk guys off a ledge. Sometimes it's just having a normal conversation, but it's all a purpose in it, and it really helps them and it helps me as well. So I get healed even helping them. So that's why I do the work.
It is amazing, and I think the average person, you kind of touched on it there. I feel like the average person looks at a lot of you guys and says they can't possibly have any issues or anything going on at all because they're these star football players, yourself drafted in the first round, boatloads of money coming out of college. I mean, what could possibly be wrong? Do you think that's the biggest misconception and maybe why guys are afraid to speak up? I mean, I think what you're doing is really admirable because you are speaking up and going, okay, I'm just like anybody else. But do you find that people are surprised to hear when professional athletes do speak out or do come forward that they're struggling?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that people are surprised when they have seen maybe a player that they look up to and has been playing really well. They don't separate the two. So they look at it like, oh man, he's been playing really well, but how could he possibly be dealing with that? So I think one of the things could be fans, but secondly, it could be just family when, especially if you haven't really talked about that growing up or you never really said anything about it. So it could be hard for someone to believe that you are really having issues because, man, you're somewhere that a lot of people would love to be. But we have to remember that we are also human, just like anybody else, and that we bleed, we scratch, we cry just like anybody else. So when you pull back that layer and you kind of put it in perspective, I think people really start to understand that, wow, man, that guy is really dealing with that. And then I could also say too that when you really look at football players, a lot of them are just scared to go in the therapy room because they don't want someone to say or look at them in a way, or their teammate look at them in a way, or upstairs look at them in a way. They want to be as private as possible, but it's kind of hard to do that, and it's just a where we have to get past.
Yeah, and kind of leads me to my next question. Do you think it's relaxed a little bit as far as in the locker room? I mean, do you think the stigma inside the locker rooms, especially for younger players, about opening up, asking for help? I mean, do you think that there's been progress that has been made in the NFL, in particular, when it comes to addressing mental health with players, whether it's from the team, whether it's from the league?
I think there has been just a tad. I think there is more that can be done. Obviously, there is a clinician on all 32 NFL teams, which is amazing. Now you have these clinicians on site and ready to go when guys are need to go to therapy. But I do think there can be more done. Just a lot of the things that can be said, talk about it a little bit more, show a little bit more awareness, so guys really do feel comfortable going in there. Maybe you have someone in between, or like a life coach or someone to really help them understand what mental health is, the basic knowledge of what mental health is. Because when you're playing football, you're not really thinking about that all the time. You're really focused on, it's almost like a Kobe mentality. I'm focused on ball. I'm trying to get where I need to be. And you forget all about your mental health, right? It's everything is physical, and we do everything backwards. It really should be mental first, then physical. Then you have the team that you want to have. Then those teams that are mentally tough and ready to go. Usually those teams win the Super Bowl, like how the Eagles did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I think you've said it that maybe you feel like you would have had more success if your mind was right and you addressed it in Philadelphia. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. If I would have addressed, a lot of some of these issues that I dealt with, I would have been better off. My latter part of my career is when I had my best time. Like I played in with the Commanders, and I had like my best camp with Commanders, but that wasn't until my 6th year in the league. And after that, I really had, the team around me to really help me mentally and help me get through some of those tough moments that we all deal with as football players.
Yeah, so obviously you play with the Commanders, and when you look back to last year, and when you look at the overall picture, the Commanders, I felt like, oh, they're going to give the Eagles a lot of trouble, and then bam, they kind of got smacked in the face this year. When you look at this NFC East, do you think the Commanders is just a year you just throw away because of the injuries, or do you think this Commanders team is not who they were last year?
I would say I don't think they're as much as who they were last year, because even when you look at it, Jaden Daniels is probably in and out this year. He did get hurt. It was some things that happened even with the Commanders, but I don't think they're the team that they was last year. I think they do probably want to get some pieces, some more pieces in there, maybe even some more pieces on defense to help them uh, try to get to the promised land that they want to go, which is the Super Bowl. I thought going into their practices, looking at their practices, I thought they were going to be the team to beat. But I think, Jaden Daniels being hurt really hurt them a little bit. But I don't necessarily think that they're the team that they was last year. I think they need to make some improvements so they can be better going forward.
Yeah, the Eagles still the kings of the NFC East, back-to-back titles. First time that's happened in the division in over 20 years. It's pretty remarkable, just the changeover year to year and just how tough that NFC East is. Obviously, you've played in the NFC West. I mean, that's been a great division this year too. Do you think the NFC West is the best division, or do you think the NFC East? What are your thoughts having played in both of them?
That's a great question. I think right now that the best division is the NFC West. I wouldn't say it's the NFC East only because, you have two teams in the NFC West, that 49ers, the Seahawks, right? Shoot, even the Rams, right? I just think that it's just an overall better division. When you look at the NFC East division, I mean, you have the Eagles, but that's really it, right? I'm not even going to talk about the Cowboys, right? But that's really it when it comes to the divisions. I think that they are doing really well out that way, but I don't necessarily think that they will beat the Eagles, because I really do feel like the Eagles is going to turn it on and they're going to surprise a lot of people. I know the Philadelphia fans like, nah, y'all better do it. This better happen right now. But I think that they know they've been here before. They've been here before. So I think they got something up their sleeve.
Marcus, last few things for you. This Eagles team, we talked about it at the start of this conversation. Is this team, you think, the favorite to win the Super Bowl? Who are you picking as a favorite? Would it be Philadelphia?
I think for me, I think they could be one of the favorites. That's what I'm gonna say.
Oh, come on! You got to give me who's your team? Who do you think?
So I talked about the Rams earlier. I think the Rams could make a run for it as well, and I think depending on how this last week plays out and who plays who, I do think the Rams can make it a bit further in this playoffs. But I also think that the Eagles can make it as well. I think it could be, depending on how it plays out, I think it could be either one.
And obviously, we talked about it. You do so much work helping others with mental health. If people want to learn more about the work you do, how can they find out more?
Yeah, so my Instagram is The Circle of M, and my website is thecircleofm.com. So if you want to find out more, you could just go to our website. I partner with, a lot of two treatment facilities, one in Colorado and the other one in California. A lot of former players go to these treatment facilities just to get the help that they need. And I act as a global ambassador and a director of athlete wellness for these companies. And they partner with the Circle of M to be able to help the players get into treatment and get the help that they need, so we can build the plan out for them to be successful at life. So if you want to contact me or you want to find me, you can also find my Instagram, which is moneymark91, and everything is on there, so you'll see it.
Well, Marcus Smith, former Eagles first-round pick, we really appreciate you sharing your story, some insight there into if you are struggling, what you can do to get help, your advice to others, and everything in between. We really appreciate, being an advocate for mental health to help others. And if this conversation can help one other person, you're certainly doing your job there and doing, something that you love to do now, post-playing career. And of course, great insight about the Eagles and the Commanders and how things could shape out in the NFL playoffs.
Thank you.
Marcus Smith joining us here on BetParx Saturday. Always great to see Marcus Smith. We appreciate it. Former Eagles first-round pick, played for the Eagles, Seahawks, Commanders. Could believe the Eagles, of course, one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Of course, here, BetParx Saturdays, live from the Sportsbook at Parx Casino in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Jeff Skversky taking you to 2 o'clock alongside my producer, Andrew Frazier. The Eagles, of course, are going to rest the starters in the finale against the Commanders. So that means Tanner McKee will get the start. And of course, the Eagles need a win, and they need the Bears to lose to lock up that 2 seed and get the Green Bay Packers at home in the wild card round. So some big shows are hitting Parx Casino. Tickets to see some national headliners at the Excite Center at Parx Casino. They make a great gift, even post-holiday gift. You could find something with an entertainment taste for everyone here at Parx Casino. Coming up on January 17th in a few weeks, Classic Rockers Grand Funk Railroad will be here. At the end of the month, Saturday, January 31st, the Marshall Tucker Band and Jefferson Starship will be here. In February, Piano Men, Generations, a tribute to the Elton John and Billy Joel tour. That will be here in Bensalem. Then later in February, country artist Brett Young will be at Parx Casino here in Bensalem. And then everyone's favorite, in March, comedian Tracy Morgan. You know him from Saturday Night Live. Tracy Morgan will be here in Bensalem. And then later in April, Cheap Trick, April 3rd. And Melissa Etheridge, April 18th, May 14th, the Wallflowers. The rock band will be here. The Wallflowers, that was just announced a few weeks ago. You can buy tickets at parxcasino.com. You must be 21 or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So we've talked to Marcus Smith. We've talked about the Eagles. A lot to get into. Do we have Brad Feinberg? Brad Feinberg is going to call in any minute. We're going to talk to Brad about some of Brad's best bets as we talk about the Eagles. Of course, they are 4-point favorites to beat the Commanders. So Eagles-Commanders tomorrow. And Jalen Hurts has talked about the fact that he trusts the coaches and he's going to believe in this coaching staff. But again, he pointed out this week that the Eagles have had another play caller, and that has been difficult for him to navigate. And that's why I do believe him having this mental rest is crucial for Jalen Hurts and that offensive line. If there's two components that are key here, in my opinion, it's that Jalen Hurts and the offensive line are going to get some rest because they need Lane Johnson back. They really do. And I think Jalen Hurts, to have extra rest, they've played better when they've had extra rest. And we've seen how they played in 2022, getting the Super Bowl. We saw Jalen Hurts played in that Super Bowl. He had some extra rest going into the playoffs. We saw what they did last year, winning the Super Bowl, how Jalen Hurts and the offense turned it on in the playoffs. They played their hearts out against the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. And then, of course, in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts didn't even finish the game. That's how electric this team was. They had extra rest going into the playoffs. I think it'll benefit them here against the Commanders in the finale. All right, so let's bring in Brad Feinberg, our betting analyst. Brad Feinberg, Pro Sports betting analyst. He's a great follow on Twitter at Brad's Best Bets. Brad, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Jeff, great to see you, my friend.
You too. Eagles 4-point favorites against the Commanders. It seems like this line has been moving. I know you've been keeping an eye on it more than perhaps others, especially with the starters are not going to be playing in this game. So, Brad, walk me through this Eagles line. It has been moving. I think I saw it at 4.5. Did it open at 7.5? This Eagles line is moving, and is it strictly because of the change and Nick Sirianni and the Eagles announcing that the starters are not going to be playing?
Jeff, the line opened at 9.
It did open at 9. Okay.
It opened at 9. Yeah, so it's obviously, the fact that the Eagles are starters when we play. But I got to tell you something, Jeff. And again, there's no way for me to know this, but it's just my opinion, right? My theory is, and again, I am not saying that Tanner McKee is better, or the Eagles would be better with Tanner McKee than Joe Hurts. I am not saying that. Here's what I am saying. If Tanner McKee was on the San Francisco 49ers, and he was Mac Jones, Brock Purdy in that quarterback room, my opinion, the drop-off would be 0. I think they would be just as good, and I will say, if Jalen Hurts was on that particular team versus Tanner McKee, I don't know if Jalen Hurts' team would be any better than the way it is with Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee is a guy, Jeff, I just believe it in my bones. I think this guy's a stone-cold starter. He's obviously in a situation where he hasn't gotten that chance to prove it. I get it. And I know the sample size is incredibly small, but I think this guy's good. If I was a team that didn't have a quarterback, instead of paying the first pick of the draft price and giving up, a zillion to get some guy we don't know about, I don't know what the asking price on Tanner McKee would be. I can't imagine it'd be much more than maybe a late second at most, maybe even a third. I don't know. But I would much rather take my chances of that if I was a bad team like Miami doesn't have a quarterback, or I could name 10 of them. The Colts, if Daniel Jones doesn't come back. So many teams could use a quarterback, Jeff. And Tanner McKee's the guy I would go for. I think this guy's going to play well. I think if this guy had all the starters and had A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, I personally think we'd see a really smooth, good offense. Just my opinion. I know I'm probably in such a minority, I wouldn't even describe how big of a minority I'm in, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, you know what? I disagree on that. And you know, I know people fell in love with Nate Sudfeld years ago, and in this city, people fall in love with the backup quarterback. I disagree. Like, I've seen them in practice. I've seen him in games. I think he's an okay two. Like, I don't think he's a one. I just don't. And but I will say, I do think a lot of people do believe that Tanner McKee.
Sure.
We've heard the Eagles talk about it. We saw it with Nate Sudfeld, years ago. I remember Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman and players on the team. Nate Sudfeld I see these two quarterbacks. I see Nate Sudfeld and Tanner McKee very similar. And listen, I could be wrong. I'm not a football evaluator, but from my trained eye or untrained eye, whatever it may be, I just don't see it. And I go, there's a reason he's a backup. There's just a reason for it. And I know in this city we fall in love with the backup. And, of course, Nick Foles is the ultimate, he's the epitome of backup stories, but I'm just not seeing it. In any event, run us through your...
He's only thrown the ball, Jeff, to your point, he's only thrown the ball 48 times. He's 33 of 48. So the sample size is literally zero.
Yeah,
so
and to his credit, Tanner McKee he's looked good, right? Like, he has looked good. I don't want to take that away from him. And his start last year against the Giants at first start of his career, he looked great.
Yeah.
But I'm just not...
I mean, look, we'll see how he plays. He's a guy... Jeff, and you're right, Jeff. You are right. Yeah, in that I haven't seen enough of him to really say, yeah, I know I'm right on this. Heck no, it's an educated guess, but from what I have seen, and you've seen more, Jeff. You've seen him in practice. I can't say that. So you've definitely seen more of him than me. I watched him in college, but I can't tell you I've watched him as much. You obviously seen him in practice and stuff like that. You've probably seen so many more throws. You're like, oh my God, I'm seeing this kind of errant throw, which no one would know about unless they were seeing this practice, or he doesn't have the arm strength or whatever it may be, or the timing. But from what I have seen, the limited thing, he's just one of those guys, Jeff. I would love to see what if in an alternate universe, if he did get the chance to play with all the starters, right? How would it look? Again, I'm not saying it would be as good as Jalen, but I'm just saying I'd like to see how it would look, because my instinct is it would look pretty good, but I could be so dead wrong. And maybe, by the way, this is a team that traded A.J. Feely for it too, Jeff. Remember that? So they've done a good job of kind of, and did they trade Kevin Cobb to someone as well, if I remember correctly?
Did he go to the Bills? I want to say
something like that. I feel like they've done a good job of BSing other teams into thinking that their backups are way better than they are. So maybe this is another example where they're hyping this guy up so much that some other team will be like, oh, hey, Tanner McKee, and then they get him like, oh my God, we got a lemon. It's possible, but he's a guy I personally think is going to be good if he gets the chance. But we'll see how it plays out. Maybe he'll never get the chance.
Yeah, well, he's going to get that chance tomorrow against the Commanders in the regular season finale, and there's something to play for.
But
I know
backups, Jeff, but that's a different. It's a really look again. I get it, but it is with the backups. And
right, but in all fairness, he may be more comfortable with the backups because that's who he's getting his reps with. Like he in practice is not getting reps with the ones for the most part, and he's barely getting any snaps. So when he does get snaps in practice, it's with the twos. So he probably has a better feel for the backup receivers and the backup tight end than he does, let's say, Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. Not saying that he can't hit those guys, and those guys would be more beneficial. But we're going to see how Tanner McKee does. So run us through your Brad's best bets for tomorrow in the NFL. What you like, what you don't like.
I like, my friend. A lot of stuff I like. Jeff, look, I'll start with today. I like Tampa Bay laying 2.5. Jeff, what's interesting? I've been fading Tampa Bay like crazy. I think I've won 5 or 6 straight games betting against them. I've literally gone against them a ton. But it's interesting, Jeff. They just played 2 weeks ago. The same matchup, and I bet Carolina +3 in Carolina. So now I could take Tampa Bay laying 2.5. in Tampa Bay. And I really say, what has changed in 2 weeks' time to make it where I can lay less at home than I was taking on the road? Nothing's really changed. Yeah, Tampa Bay's lost, but I thought Tampa Bay was overrated to begin with. But I think 2.5 too light. Give me Tampa Bay. The other game, I think it's a great game. I don't have an opinion on it, unfortunately. The Seattle-San Francisco game, I think, would be terrific. Colts-Texans, Jeff, I think 10.5 is too high. I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans see that the Jags are going to win, which they're going to. They take out C.J. Stroud. They take out some of their starters. I don't think the Colts are god awful. Even though they've lost a lot of games in a row, I don't think they're a bottom 3 team. I think 10.5 points is too much. Jeff, the Cincinnati Bengals are the king of winning games where who cares at this point? They are the king of that. And they will destroy this Cleveland Browns team, in my opinion, laying 7.5 in a game that who cares? The answer is we're going to see that Joe Burrow throws for 4 touchdowns. They win 34-6. And people are like, oh, the Bengals, if only they made the playoffs. Well, yeah, the game doesn't mean anything, but that's what they thrive in. Another game, Jeff, that I like. I think that the Dolphins against the Patriots first half, I like the Patriots in the first half laying 6.5. I know I'm going to get all their guys playing in the first half, Jeff. Can't control the second half. If they're up by a lot, then it becomes backups. I don't like to mess with that, but I think they'll be winning by 7 or more there. And this next game, Jeff, you're probably going to be like, man, Brad, are you kidding me? But no, I have a good reason for it. Chiefs-Raiders, you're probably like, how could you bet a game like that? I will answer the question. I think, Jeff, this line should have been Kansas City maybe -1.5, maybe -2. I have these two teams today ranked as the 2 worst teams in the NFL, 31 and 32. And the Chiefs, you were talking about a team that just doesn't care. They're going to rest. People are. If it didn't say Kansas City Chiefs, Jeff, if it said a different name other than the brand of the Chiefs, there's not a doubt in my mind this line would be less than 5.5. Give me the Raiders plus 5.5 in a game that I'm flipping a coin. I'll take 5.5 points. I know the Raiders stink. It's not about that. This line's too high, Jeff.
Interesting. And I know Andy Reid said this week it is a strange feeling. It's a weird feeling that they're out of it. And I agree. I mean, they got blown out in the Super Bowl to the Eagles, but it does feel weird that the Chiefs are out of it.
But they're not even playing any of their guys. So it's like, this is truly like, you talk about backups. This is the Chiefs. Forget the B team, C team, D team. This is their F team. This is their, oh my God, Hail Mary, we have no one good team against the Raiders. Now, again, the Raiders, horrible team. I get it. 5.5 points. It's going to be a close game, Jeff. That's what I'm banking. This game will be close. And again, I'll take the 5.5 points. If Kansas City wins 21-17, I'll really tip my cap to myself saying, you know what? I thought this line was about 3 points too high, and that was the edge.
As I look at this now, we have plenty of time to talk about this, but where things stand now, when you talk about the Eagles overall as Super Bowl contenders, last I checked, and things move and change all the time, but the Eagles are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're like the 6 favorites to win the Super Bowl, right? Like they're 480, is that right? Plus 480?
That sounds about right.
I mean, so the Seahawks, like the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Rams, Niners, Patriots are all ahead of the Eagles, and I'm going, do you really believe in any of these? Like, I don't believe in any of these teams in front of the Eagles, really, other than the Rams. Like, I'm not buying the Patriots. I'm not buying the 49ers right now. I'm not buying the Broncos, and I'm not buying the Seahawks. To me, I mean, even the Bills are at plus 500. To me, I'm going like Eagles, right? Like, if you look at that, I mean, at 480, do you think where do you think that, what's your opinion on that, where the Eagles stand right now as far as
why are you not buying the Patriots? What have they done this year to make you not trust them? They've been as consistent. The quarterback has played so flawlessly.
I don't think they've had a tough schedule. I don't think they've had a tough schedule, and I think in a young quarterback, when you get into that playoff mode, when you get into the playoffs, sometimes we saw it last year with like Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, and I think we'll see it this year with the Bears. Like, I think we'll see it this year with the Bears. They've overachieved, and getting to the playoffs is, oh wow, we're here. I think the more experienced teams, at the end of the day, my rule of thumb, and I know things can change, and that doesn't always matter, but my rule of thumb is the more experienced teams versus these teams that come out of nowhere. That's just my take. That's why I'm not buying the Patriots. That's why I'm not buying the Broncos. That's why I'm not buying the Seahawks. I look at the Eagles and the Bills and the Rams as they're more serious contenders, in my opinion, than the other ones in front of them.
Well, it's interesting, Jeff. Look, the Eagles. It's just I find it so fascinating, because I look at their team. They invested all their money. Literally, they have the highest discrepancy offense defense out of 32 teams in the NFL. Their money spent on defense versus offense is the biggest discrepancy of any of the other 31 teams. They put all their money into the offense, and I find it interesting. And again, if you were to talk, I say if you're like someone steals a car and they chop up the parts and because they sell when you strip it down.
Well, what are we talking about?
No. I'm saying like the Eagles. When you say individually, is AJ Brown good? You're like, yeah. Is Devonta Smith good? You're like, yeah. Is Jalen Hurts good? Yeah. Is every offensive lineman good? Yeah. Is Saquon Barkley good? Yeah. When you piece them together like a car, it doesn't seem like it's worth as much as it is individually. And they have shown us all year, every single game, that their offense is atrocious. And I mean, when I say atrocious, I mean atrocious.
I agree. It's been bad, yeah.
Yeah, and so they have to win the way the Baltimore Ravens won with that marvelous defense like 20 years ago. And their defense has been so good, Jeff. They can do it. They can do it. Their defense has been, you look at the Texans, you look at the Seahawks, you look at Denver, you look at Philly. Those four defenses have all been phenomenal. And I find it startling. A team with this talent on offense, it's like you still can't believe it, and you witness it every week. You're like, I think this was the third game this year Jalen Hurts has not completed a pass, Jeff, in the second half. That's 1 in a million odds.
It is crazy. Yeah.
A pass in the second half, multiple games.
Yeah.
That is, for a professional quarterback, that's impossible. Like that's something that would not be on a calculator, the odds. And he's done it multiple times. And you see the exasperation. I'm just like, I find it crazy that a team with this many good players, it just can't do more on the offensive side of the ball. But you're right. Listen, all that being said, Jeff, everything I just said, you're absolutely right. They're steely tough. They're the champs, and they're going to be a tough out. Whoever beats them, they're going to be a tough out because you know what? The defense is phenomenal, and they don't turn the ball over.
Yeah, and they find and I just look at this like in the playoffs, they find a way to win, and the rest of the regular season and everything we see, we want them because of all the talent to play like a Madden video game, and it's just not the case. And they just haven't looked right. I mean, to your point, yeah, against the Bills, Hurts 0 for 7 in the second half. Earlier in the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 0 for 8 in the second half. And the Eagles, combining those two games in the second half, scored 7 points. By the way,
it's amazing, Jeff.
It is amazing, but Hurts, to my point, finds a way. They just find a way to win. They have these long, methodical drives to close out games. Yeah. We see it year in and year out, and that's why I do believe in the Eagles, and that's why I do agree with Nick Sirianni to rest the guys this week.
But also, Jeff, the one thing that hasn't, to me, I don't know if you agree with me, buddy, because you obviously know that you know the team inside and out. One of the things, forget Jalen Hurts' regression. Forget that. One of the things I really think has hurt the team, it didn't seem like last year, Saquon Barkley, literally every game, felt like he had at least one 50-yard run. It seemed that way. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have to look back, Brad. It really wasn't that. But it seemed like every game he had at least one, sometimes three. I mean, he had, I thought that was the best running back year I've seen. Terrell Davis, maybe. But it was right up there. It was top 3. Let's call it top 5 to be mean. It was one of the most phenomenal years I've ever seen any athlete ever have, because every game, Bo Jackson used to do it. He'd always have this huge run. And I feel like this year, there have been so few of those, Jeff, those big plays, those, kind of like, those free plays, those 75-yard runs where we just get 7 on the board. Boom. And maybe in the playoffs, Jeff, maybe he could have a couple of those plays in a game to win a game where he just like the Rams game and when he runs that 70-yarder and right off the, and maybe he could have that again in some of these playoffs games, Jeff, to your point, and maybe they can win that way because their defense is playing so freaking good. And as long as the defense keeps playing like this, Jeff, as I said, they're going to be a tough out. Like whoever beats them, I'm sure it'll be a close loss if they even lose, because you're right. Their defense is playing great. They have the medal of a champion, and so I just, as a fan, I know you're probably like, God, about all this stuff. You don't seem like a fan, but I actually really am. And I wish I was a coach, Jeff. I wish me and you could like just be in a room with all these people and decipher, why is their offense not look better when they have all these good players? That's the part that
I
just
think it's
frustrates me.
simple.
I'm
Like
not sure the
I
answer.
think it's simple. I think its offensive line is really banged up. They have been a shell of themselves. I think these guys are tired and banged up. And I think I've heard Jalen Hurts talk about it 4 or 5, 6 times this year. The change of play callers, the change of offensive coordinators and coaches has really taken a toll on him. And I think it's as simple as that. And I don't blame Saquon Barkley for the running issues.
Yeah.
And I think it's as simple as that. But, if you were to do a side-by-side comparison of Jalen Hurts' stats this year versus Jalen Hurts' stats last year, in a lot of categories, he's actually been better. The eye test doesn't say that, but the
Something
stats,
like that.
the stats would indicate that Jalen Hurts is having a better season as a passer. In some,
But Jeff, let me ask you another question, and I really like talking because I know you know the team really well. One other difference I've noticed, and I don't know if you agree, and I respect your opinion a lot. So I'm going to ask you is, I said the Saquon thing. One of the big differences to me was Saquon had, it seemingly last year, I'm going to say like 12 runs of 50 yards plus. And I don't know how many it was, but it had to be a lot. I think it was an NFL record, whatever it was. I know it was. It's the NFL record. The other thing to me that has been different, and you mentioned Jalen's passing. It hasn't been his passing to me that's been different. I feel like this year he's been much less apt to run the ball.
right,
And
you're
I think
100%
that
right.
has helped the team significantly. And sometimes quarterbacks get a label, he's a running quarterback, and they take it as a negative. To me, it's a huge positive. To me, yeah, I want to be. If I'm a good athlete and I can run the ball and I can make that as part of my repertoire. I remember like McNabb hated being called a running quarterback. He hated it. It would eat at him, and it was almost like he had to prove a point, trying to run less. I'm not a running quarterback. It's not like when people Josh Allen's a running quarterback. Why is that bad? Lamar Jackson's a running quarterback. Why is that bad? I don't get why you can't be a running quarterback, and it's not a positive. It just means you do something extreme. It's like Steph Curry's a three-point shooter. Are you saying he can't? It's not good at basketball. He's a three-point shooter. To me, you should embrace what you're good at. And he's tough. He's so tough, Jalen. He runs hard. He's a winner. I don't know why he's removed himself, and that's a physical ailment. Why he's done so much of it this year?
I think it's the injury factor, right? Like Jalen Hurts has kept himself healthy, and I think he's been smart and he's had some luck with that. But the running quarterback thing, you can't have it both ways. For years, we talk about Donovan and Carson and Michael Vick
right.
and running and being in harm's way. And now, we see Jalen Hurts. They've talked about it with him early on in his career about not running as much. Then now it's okay. Well, he's not running enough. You can't have it both ways. But look, come playoff time, he's going to find a way to try to win the game, and whether that's with his legs or with his arm, and maybe it's back-to-back long runs. I think we saw it last year during the playoff run. He had some amazing runs, and it just comes down to, in that moment, maybe early on in the season, you're not running and putting yourself in harm's way because you need to be there for your team versus, hey, I need this win more so now than I do back earlier in the season.
Yeah, it makes sense, Jeff. And it's funny. One of my favorite things to bet, Jeff, and that's why you make so many good points there. Is you said now it's the postseason, and one thing that betting pros do for everyone watching the show, it's very important. One of the tricks that's worked really good for me and other betting pros is betting quarterbacks like Jalen, like Josh Allen, like unfortunately Mahomes before he got hurt, betting their over and rushing yards in the postseason only, because what you said is so true, Jeff. They're more apt to run on a play where maybe in the regular season game they're like, you know what, maybe the coaching staff told them, listen, it's not worth you risking. If you get hurt, it ruins our season. We're trying to get to week 19, right? We're not trying to get to a week 12 game against the Giants, whatever, But week 19, when it's the first playoff game, we need you then to make that big run. And I have done extremely well. And what always happens is you'll see it like someone like Jalen. Let's say he averages most weeks, he's 27 and a half, 28 and a half. They'll open it at 27, 28, Jeff. And then the betting pros will pound his over and it'll close at like 33, 34. Betting tip for everyone out there.
All right, well, Brad Feinberg, our pro sports betting analyst. We appreciate you joining us as always on BetParx Saturday. Some great info there and a great follow on X at Brad's Best Bets. Thanks for joining the show today.
Jeff, I always enjoy talking to you. Happy New Year, my friend.
You too. Happy New Year. All right, so the Eagles 4-point favorites against the Commanders in the finale with Tanner McKee as the quarterback. And we talked about it there with this Eagles offense with Brad. Can Jalen Hurts and the offense flip the switch in the playoffs and get this offense going? They haven't looked like themselves all year. It's been brutal. If you run through the list, 24th total in offense, 18th in rushing, 23rd in passing. These are the rankings. 19th in points per game, 24th in third down. Awful numbers, especially when you look at the talent on this team. Somehow they're number one in the red zone, which is huge. But we talked about it with Brad. Jalen Hurts in 2 games this year has failed to complete a single pass in the second half of a game. He did it early in the season against the Bucs, 0 for 8 in the second half. The Eagles scored 7 points. Last week against the Bills, you wanted to see them in that second half get on a run and feel good going into the playoffs if indeed they were going to rest the starters like they are. And Jalen Hurts in the second half against the Bills, 0 for 7 in the second half, and the Eagles lay a donut. Look, I wanted them to feel good going into the playoffs and to feel like, all right, we're playing our best football. Certainly the second half against the Bills, even though they won that game, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and I think Eagles fans out there, and I'm sure the Eagles, honestly, I mean, Nick Sirianni was upset about it, that they could not get on a run against that Bills game and just blow that game out. I know the Bills are a great team, but come on. You can't complete a single pass with the talent you have on this offense. But look, Jalen Hurts' mentality is just to win. Just to win. And the big question now is this team going to go into the playoffs and be that same team we've seen? I mean, at this point, they kind of are who they are, but the question was posed this week, can they flip the switch? Can they turn it on in the playoffs? And Jalen Hurts is like, hey, my mentality is just find a way to win, and we've seen that with Hurts. And let's be honest, in the playoffs, I don't need to see them to be this Madden EA Sports video game. I need them to just win the game. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if it's 10-9. I don't care if it's 17-16. Just win the game. Here are the Eagles. Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts about their mentality now heading into the playoffs. Can they just flip a switch and get this going? What's their mindset? Here they are.
Obviously, we're all pissed that we didn't execute and coach as well as we needed to in the second half of that Buffalo game. But I really looked at it as like, man, there's some opportunities here that we can really get better from, and as we went through it as coaches. And that's got to be the constant mindset you have.
I wouldn't say there's a switch. I think we've been a little inconsistent, and we know we have it in us to do what we need to do because we've done it in spots. And that's what we got to really lean into and press into and be detailed and do what we have to do.
I think experience is the biggest teacher. When you have your own testimonies that you can lean on in some regard of whatever the situation is, those things are always valuable. So taking myself out of it, really thinking of us as a team, collectively, moving forward, whatever direction we go in, this is a unit that has played ball together. And so that's something that we can lean on.
If you look at the playoffs last year, that's the one that's most fresh in my mind. The Green Bay game, that we did some good things. We did some things we needed to clean up. Then we got a little bit better in that Rams game, and then last year, and then we probably had our best offensive output of our time here in the NFC Championship game, and then we had a really good Super Bowl.
It hasn't changed anything of how I view myself as a competitor, as a quarterback, and how I approach the game. I think the reality is, I've had a different coordinator every time, every year. So I'm very rational with everything as it is. I'm also not going to allow anything to be an excuse of not winning, because that's the only thing that matters to me.
You're constantly in this quest to get better. So my experience, my belief in, I know this, is that you're just trying to keep getting better, and the best teams are playing their best football by the end of the year, and that's the teams that continue to excel through the playoffs and continue to go through the playoffs.
I think sequencing is very important to flow, to rhythm, to how the game is kind of put together from a bigger picture perspective. So, I value that. I've seen it done a ton of different ways from all the coaches that I've had, and those are things like I believe, ultimately the will to win is something that's going to overcome anything, any difference, any change, or however something is evolved. This competitive will to not be denied of winning. It's always the pursuit.
I gotta say what you want about Jalen Hurts. I trust him with the football. I think he's done a heck of a job winning football games, and that's all that matters. And I like the mentality is I truly believe it, that he does not care about stats. Again, I do find it interesting that he continues to bring up the play caller stuff and having a different guy in the room. And I think mentally that weighs on him. And I think it's like, okay, he's kind of tired of it. You can sense it. He doesn't let a lot out of the bag, but he's really been just harping on it. I feel like 4, 5, 6 times this season has mentioned how much of a toll it's taken having all these different coordinators. But look, the eye test, and we talked about it, he looks off. Something doesn't look right. Having said that, a lot of his stats, he's taken on a bigger workload in 2025, more passing, but he's thrown for more yards, more touchdowns. He's cut down on sacks. The trade-off, slightly lower efficiency with a dip in the completion percentage and the passer rating. But, his stats are up, which I'm kind of surprised to look at. And we can break it down 1,000 different ways. But the bottom line is that, he's going to be, I think, aggressive in the playoffs. And everything is in the hands of Jalen Hurts. This team is going to ride and die with number one, Jalen Hurts. And if he can find a way to win the game, that's all that matters. I don't think anyone's going to care if the Eagles win a playoff game 6-3. It's not going to be fun sitting there in the cold at the link. If they end up playing the Packers or the 49ers or the Rams, it's not going to be fun. Having said that, you're not going to care. Just win the game. That's it. So we've talked a lot about the Eagles. Let's continue talking about the Birds with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Is this team on the verge of a dynasty? Think about it. Do you view this Eagles team as a dynasty? It's among the topics I talked about with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Check out our interview. Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. What's happening, Dave?
Jeff, it's great to see you. Happy New Year. And let's talk some Birds, man.
Yeah, let's talk
some.
Yeah, new year, and hopefully turning the page to some better football for the Eagles offensively. Let's talk about this game against the Commanders. Obviously, the Eagles resting their starters, and that seems to be the right decision in the sense of you cannot have, God forbid, Jalen Hurts or one of your starters getting injured. It seems like that is really the only move to go here.
And I think that that's true. And, the Eagles have been so beaten up, and the value of getting the rest, for me, my perspective, for the offensive line in particular, which has been just banged up, beat up, not together all season, the benefits of that far outweigh beating the Commanders and getting to the number 2 seed. That said, the Eagles are still playing and expecting to win the football game with Tanner McKee, with a thrown together offensive line, with some backups at wide receiver. I get that they're playing the backups, but they still think they're going to win this football game, and they still are going into Sunday expecting to win the game. But in the big picture, the best way to get to the Super Bowl again is to get some resting, to get that offensive line unit as healthy as possible, to get the ground game going in the postseason.
Yeah, mentally and physically, you're around this team every day. Just how banged up are they truly when you talk about the physical and the mental aspect of it? They could really use this, and we've seen in the past it has worked. The last 2 times they've done this, they've gone to the Super Bowl. Not saying that it correlates, but it certainly helps to get that rest in the NFL.
It does. I would compare it to what Kansas City has gone through during their stretch. 3 Super Bowls, 5 seasons, and you have so many football games played. And the Eagles, went to the Super Bowl in 22, went to the playoffs in 23, went to the Super Bowl in 24. Landon Dickerson has had 3 surgeries. Cam Jurgens had an offseason surgery. Lane Johnson's been beat up all year. I mean, it takes its toll, all of these football games. And so I would say they're really, I actually think going into the playoffs, they have a chance to be pretty darn healthy. I mean, I think Lane Johnson will be back. I think Cam, a week off will be so great for Cam and for Landon Dickerson. I think Jalen Carter, we saw him knock the rust off last week in Buffalo and played great, and he gets a week off. So he should go into the playoffs healthy. So I think that, and I think that Kobe Dean, barring any setbacks, should be ready to go when the postseason begins. So taking all of that, their health, relatively speaking, right now is good. But for the entirety of the season, it has been a grind, man, especially when you watch the offensive line struggle as they have to gain leverage at the line of scrimmage after just blowing teams off the out of their trenches in years past. You know, you don't see that same strength and leverage and just technique that for Landon Dickerson, for example, because he's just battled injuries all year. So it's been that part of it, and then the mental side, as you say, you're always getting teams' best shots. The weight of expectations in Philly is always high, and
You don't
well,
say.
yeah, but let me tell you a story. So a couple weeks ago, Raiders come to town. We're speaking about the fans now, and Raiders come to town, and they come in on Thursday night. We have breakfast with a couple of them on Friday, some people who work in the front office, and they told us the story. They land on Thursday night. They couldn't wait to get to the rental car. They couldn't wait to turn on sports talk radio, right? And they couldn't wait to hear how crazy the fans in Philadelphia are for criticizing the Eagles. They were like, you guys have been to these Super Bowls, you're the defending champions, blah, 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 blah. First place in the division. Yeah, you've lost 3 straight games, but you're still 8-5. We're 2-13, haven't won the Super Bowl since 1983, and our fans don't say anything. And we were like, that's exactly the point. The fans aren't crazy, they care. And so it's a compliment to those weight of expectations. That's great for the team. That nobody's ever relaxed. There's always the sense of we have to live up to this very, very high standard set by the organization and by the fans. So Eagles fans, keep on being you. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you're crazy. You just care.
I always tell the story of my favorite Phillies story, but 2 of them. One of them is the Eagles win the Super Bowl in the 2017 season. Opening day, week 1, 2018, at halftime against the Falcons, just 90 minutes after raising the first ever Super Bowl banner, they're booed off the field as they're coming into the tunnel. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? They just won your first Super Bowl. And then the other one, very similar, when the Phillies won the World Series in 08, opening day 09, it's like a 90 minutes into the game and the Phillies are getting booed at the home opener 90 minutes after getting World Series rings. I'm like, are you kidding me? Can we have can we get an hour? Can we just get some, time?
Yeah, but no, the answer is no. I mean, the answer is no, because sports means so much to the people of Philadelphia and the area. And when you're on the team side of it, that's what you want, man. You never want apathy. In other cities, you see when the team's struggling, fans don't show up. Well, in Philly, when you're struggling, the fans are going to show up and they're going to let you know that they're pissed off. And ultimately, that's a very good thing.
Yeah. Is there any concern level? Obviously, you want to be playing your best football at this time of the year. The way they ended that second half against the Bills offensively, certainly not up to par, up to expectations. And I think, Jalen Hurts and the players would say that, right? So is there any concern there that, okay, you don't have that feeling, these guys are going to get a bye week now, essentially, with this Commanders game, going into the playoffs, to not have that continuity, that feel-good moment of, okay, it felt like a video game for a half, to go into the postseason. And I don't want to say on a negative because they won that game and this and that, but is there any concern there?
So the way it's worded in the league, it's not concerning, but there's the realization it's got to be better. So in the NFL, like, the coaches and players are always looking ahead, so they're always looking for solutions. So there's confidence that they're going to find solutions. There's with that, the understanding that there are solutions that are needed because the offense has not played to the level that it needs to play. And if they don't play well for 60 minutes in the playoffs, it's really hard to win. This NFC picture is loaded with good teams and high scoring offenses. And so you can't go a half and not be productive, as the Eagles have done multiple times this season. So there is the realization that they've got to be better. And it starts on first downs, running the football and losing 2 or 3 yards and being behind the sticks, that has killed this offense the entire season. The penalties on offense that have stifled drives, that has just, really been damaging to what the Eagles are trying to do offensively. So I believe that I look at this situation as kind of like it's the last preseason game right now. So the Eagles are both preparing for the Commanders and figuring out what works for them moving forward offensively. And I think there will be some tweaks to the offense when the postseason begins, and hopefully that will translate to success.
Is there the belief that, okay, they can fix it at the right time? And look, every game is hard in this league. You see just the parity around the league. Games are closer than they've ever been. But is there the belief that they can flip on a switch and this offense that's loaded with talent, arguably, in my opinion, the most loaded offense in football, they can just turn it on no matter who they face in the NFC?
I don't think it's not that simple flipping a switch, turning it on, but it'll help that Lane Johnson's back. It'll help that the offensive line got a week off. It will help that they've had a week to kind of self-scout and treat this as a bye week in a sense. When you do your self-scouting and analysis, we've seen great success from Sirianni's in his tenure here post bye weeks and rediscovering what they do well and kind of leaning on the things that are going for them. And so what's gone well for them this year is the red zone, the lack of giveaways, at times an explosive passing game. But for the most part, I think we kind of center on keeping those third and shorts, getting the running game going, and then taking some shots down the field and keeping the receivers involved. But yeah, I don't think you flip a switch, but you better freaking understand that you have to execute, or else it's going to be a short playoff run.
Yeah, certainly so. And you talk about just how stacked the NFC is. At the same time, I don't know your feeling. There's no one really out there, though, that scares me. That I go, when I think about the Eagles and this roster and this team, what they've done over the years, what they're capable of doing. When I look around, nobody scares me. I go, they can beat everybody that could potentially be in front of them. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, Jeff. But I also think that anybody else would say that in the conference, other than if Carolina makes it and maybe Green Bay the way they're playing. But and I think the reason that there's so much confidence here is the defense is so good, and there's no sign that it's going to be anything but great in the playoffs. They're deep, they're talented, they've got the best coordinator in the conference. Vic matches up really well and he certainly understands what the Rams are doing. I think if you put Vic up against Sam Darnold, you feel pretty good about that. If you put Vic up against Brock Purdy, I think you feel pretty good about that. So, but it is the offense that you say just be 10, 15% better, and this team would win so much more handily and just in such more convincing fashion. And I'm taking into account that Jake Elliott. I'm going with the supposition that Jake has ironed out his wrinkles and is back in his groove. So yeah, but I agreed. I mean, the Rams have lost 3 of their last 5. The Niners defense is not very good. Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. Chicago is really good, but they've never been in this position with this group of players. So the rest of the field is good, but the Eagles are battle tested, the defending champs, and not afraid to go win on the road because certainly defense travels on the road.
Yeah, and when you look at the potential matchups in the first round, what do you think is the best case scenario? I mean, it seems like we're splitting hairs whether they can get that 2 seed, whether they end up sticking with the 3 seed. What do you think the best case scenario as far as matchups are concerned with the team coming to the link?
Yeah, go to the number 2 spot and get Green Bay. That's the best case scenario and look, it certainly could happen. Detroit could absolutely beat Chicago.
Oh, they smoked them earlier in the season.
Yeah, and that probably makes it more difficult to beat them. But Chicago's gone through so many emotional games. At some point, it's got to take its toll. So that would be the best case scenario. Otherwise, if you're picking between San Fran, Seattle, and LA coming to Philly, I don't know. LA's done it. They're really tough. I mean, probably Seattle would be the best matchup, maybe only because of Sam Darnold and his inability to this point to perform well in a big game moment. We'll find out how he does against the Niners this weekend, but for the most part, you'd probably say that. But again, there's none of these teams are scaring. Healthy respect for them, very good teams, but we all recognize that every team has flaws in this NFL. I think the AFC picture is the same way. There's no clear-cut favorite. I'm sure the NFL loves what this is all shaping up to be, unless like a Jacksonville gets, if it's Jacksonville, Carolina in the Super Bowl, I don't think the NFL will be happy. Otherwise, I think they'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, there are some great teams, great markets, obviously, here. When you going back to the Eagles offense, when you look at this offense, what do you think the one key is? Do you think it is health, something we talked about a few minutes ago? Do you think it's Jalen Hurts? Do you think it's the offensive line? Do you think it's Saquon? Do you think it's shotgun versus under center? Like, what is there
I think it's
one?
situations. I think it's situations. I think it's staying out of third and longs. I think it's running the football effectively. I think it's winning on first and second downs. I think it's Jalen Hurts. I think it's Kevin Patullo. I think it's adjusting during the course of a game. We've seen the Eagles come out early and have success. And then what happens in the second half? Is it adjustments that the defense is making that the offense isn't making? Is it it's certainly lack of execution? Is it play calling? Is it being too conservative? Like I mean, there's so it's multiple things, but by and large, if you stay ahead of the sticks, that has been kind of the basis for success for the Eagles. When they've been behind the sticks, that's when the offense has struggled. So to me, that kind of goes back to running the football, establishing the ground game, which I think they can do with a rested Saquon Barkley, with a rested offensive line, and with some examination internally of what kind of ground game they expect to have with depending on the opponent that they're facing.
When you look at this team going into the season, I think everybody would be shocked that we would be talking about the defense is a Super Bowl championship caliber defense just based on everyone they lost. Are you surprised the defense has been this good? Even though the stats don't necessarily suggest that, when you look at the stats and where they rank, it doesn't necessarily suggest that. But are you surprised that this defense has played this well after everyone they lost?
I will tell you no, because I raved about the defense in the training camp. I thought they were young and fast and hungry. And then they didn't play that well through September, October. Here and there, yes. But what they did acquiring Jalen Phillips changed everything.
It really
And
did. He
having
made an immediate impact. Yeah.
yeah, to having it, that's the thing. Like you can really see a true immediate and high impact player who sets the edge, who rushes the quarterback, who makes offensive blocking schemes account for him. Getting him, bringing back BG to play in his role, Nolan Smith healthy, Nakobe Dean comes back healthy. I think the one area, and I still think they're, like whatever they're doing to make sure that cornerback two, when Dory Jackson's on the field, is not costing them. The fact that they've been able to cover up Adoree and then Marcus Epps and Reed Blankenship. Marcus and Reed are not like sideline to sideline guys. And that was what Makuba was going to be, right? He was going to be that fast, cover everybody down. So the fact that they certainly haven't played great teams here of late, but that they've been able to kind of cover up that, and Adoree's played much better here. If they can keep the because I would imagine teams are going to go after Adoree Jackson. Like if you're going against the Rams and you've got a healthy Devontae Adams and Puka and two great tight ends and depth at wide receiver, like you're going wherever Adoree Jackson's on the field, you're going after him. So do you double with Adoree? How at what point are teams going to start throwing down the field? And I thought they were at times earlier this year, Blankenship and Makuba at that time. But because of Phillips and his presence on the edge and the dominance inside, the pass rush has been great. 20 sacks in the last 5 games. The pass rush has been great, and that has helped the back end a lot.
Yeah, so fill in the blank here. For the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, they will need what to work?
Don't turn the football over. Score touchdowns in the red zone. Don't give up big plays on defense. Damn. Run the football. Then you're in the Super Bowl. Be 10% better. No, be 15% better on offense. And let's go back to the Super Bowl and see you in San Francisco.
It would be amazing for them to get another one back to back.
It'd be, Jeff, in your opinion, if the Eagles won the Super Bowl, would it be fair to refer to this franchise
Yes,
as
I know
a
what
dynasty?
you're saying. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And it may not get viewed that way, like nationally, but of course, like I look at this entire run, 25 years, as ridiculous. Like it's in a ridiculous run. I mean,
Yeah.
and you think about like, since even 17 with Doug Peterson and Nick it's been an amazing run. And for Howie to make that shocking move at the time and replace Carson with Jalen, I mean, like it's everyone's like, what are you doing? And here we see it the last couple of years. It's been
And and that one followed the replace Sam Bradford with Carson, get a bunch of extra draft picks, and build something like a real base. And so, yeah, the way he's been able to churn the roster and the way he's been able to have a plan of succession, and as you say, rebuilt the defense, it's been brilliant. And the defense really should be in a really good place for a long, long time. But they're going to have issues re-signing all these guys. That's Howie Roseman's job, and he'll pick the right guys to keep and make sure that they have replenishments on the way.
Would you, to answer your own question, would you consider this a dynasty if they can finish this?
I can't answer that question because then but I would say this: if the Eagles won the Super Bowl and if I were to MC the parade again, I've daydreamed about this. Would I refer to all of the people watching as the city of champions? I dream, man. I daydream.
Yeah.
I daydream.
I get it.
What I refer to them, I don't really know. I actually was going to if you look up the word sports dynasty, is there an actual definition of, let me Google this. Is there an actual definition of a sports dynasty? Let's see, like Wikipedia or something has, let's see.
Sports
Is it more,
dynasty. I would say it's based on feel. I'm going to say it's based on feel.
all right, let's see. Sports dynasty meaning. A sports dynasty is a team of individuals with prolonged dominance, winning multiple championships or major titles over an extended period. Yeah. Wait, so winning multiple championships, often 3 or more, within a relatively short time frame, like 5 to 10 years. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
17.
That would be 3 and 10, 3 and 9 years.
Yeah. Boom.
All right,
Done.
Jeff, I think we solved something here. Now we have
Yes.
now all that has to happen is that the Eagles have to go win the Super Bowl.
That's it. It seems so simple. Dave
Oh,
Spadaro,
that'd be sweet. Hey, man,
appreciate it.
thanks.
Eagles Insider, great insight. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Dave. Like many of you, Dave Spadaro, a huge Eagles fan. There's Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro. I agree. Look, dynasty. Yeah, I mean, think about this run they've been on, and I always say people don't appreciate it enough. If you go back to the Andy Reid days, I mean, my goodness. I mean, 25, 26 years of sustained success. It hasn't always been pretty. They haven't always won, but this is the best run of Eagles football. All right, well, whether your favorite team, like the Eagles, wins or not, there's another way to win on the BetParx app. Live bet while you watch your weekend sports. It makes watching that game that much more fun. Live betting is better on the BetParx app. Get some skin in the game. The BetParx app is Philly sports fans' choice to bet on sports and to play classic casino games like blackjack, craps, and much more. Sunday Pro Football at 425. Eagles 4-point favorites against the Washington Commanders at the link. The over-under 39 points. But Tanner McKee, we'll see if they can even come close to that. We'll find out. College football, only 4 teams remain. Thursday night, 7:30, Miami, 3.5-point favorites against Ole Miss. Friday night at 7:30, Indiana, 4.5-point favorites against 5th-seeded Oregon. Right now, BetParx has a great offer for new users of the year. How about this new user experience? New users at the casino on the Casino Parx Bet app can get a $1,000 casino bonus plus an additional 50 bonus on the hot slot game Triple Cash Eruption. You must be 21 in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan. BetParx.com has those terms and condition. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So we've had a jam-packed show talking to Marcus Smith, former Eagles first-round pick. He is among those that believes the Birds can turn it on in the playoffs. Let's hope so. Talked to Brad Feinberg. Brad giving us his best bets, of course, and some great insight there from Dave Spadaro. Last but not least, legendary St. Joe's coach Phil Martelli, the 2004 Naismith and AP Coach of the Year, 4-time Atlantic 10 Coach of the Year, and he's, of course, in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. He had that magical run with the St. Joe's Hawks, that 2003-2004 team where they went to the Elite Eight. They had the #1 team in the country. Phil Martelli told me he still gets chills talking about that team and that experience. The run they went on was just incredible. The whole city, really the whole country got behind them, and he told some great stories when we caught up yesterday talking about this. And also, he really feels for Delonte West. I mean, it breaks his heart what Delonte West, the former St. Joe star and an NBA player, has gone through. Drafted in '04. He's publicly dealt with mental health struggles and substance abuse and bipolar disorder. Phil Martelli's very open about Delonte West and the help that he needs, and how Mark Cuban, the former Dallas Mavericks owner, has gone out of his way to help. And of course, everything going on in college basketball and college athletics, from the NIL to the transfer portal to the Baylor signing a kid that was drafted by the Detroit Pistons. What's going on in college sports? Phil Martelli with some strong opinions there. Here's my conversation with Phil Martelli yesterday. Take a listen. The great Phil Martelli. What's happening, Phil?
Jeff, I don't know about great, but I'll take Phil Martelli, and I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you for this invitation.
It's great to talk to you. Are you thankful that you're not coaching anymore with the way the NIL set up in college basketball and college athletics, or do you miss it? It seems like there's a lot of high profile coaches, from Calipari to Tom Izzo, that are complaining with the way things are going on right now. Do you miss it, or are you going, I don't know if I could work with this structure right now?
I'm not glad that I'm out. I really am. I'm not, woe was us, woe was the game. What I'm appreciative of was the relationships that I have and will have, the memories that I have and will have. And I really, really miss this. I think you'll know this, but I worked with my door open all the time. Unless it was a private one-on-one meeting, I never closed my door. And I always wanted people to think this isn't the principal's office. And I miss the days where somebody just walks in and says, hey, do you have a minute? And it could be about a family matter. It could be a player with a school matter, a future. What am I going to do in the future? It could be an alum. And if they think enough to walk in and say, can I help? Can you help? They're not always asking for something. They're asking for your time or your thoughts. I miss the heck out of that. I miss day to day having people, from managers to star players to former players. That's the part that I really miss. And then on the other side, and I talk to all those guys, all the guys that you mentioned, I'll call. And I'll say, at the end of the day, you decide how much of that other stuff you want to get involved in. But you are getting to coach a game that you love. Hopefully you're passing that love on to another generation of players. And then it beats work.
Right.
It really beats that. And I don't know anybody does a 9 to 5 anymore, but it beats a 9 to 5. So that's a long-winded answer. I'm delighted to be on this side, doing some media, doing some public talks, being the father of the coaches at VCU. I'm delighted to be doing that role. But I don't sit here and wring my hands and say, I just want one more chance, or I need to be in one more locker room. I got a lot. I got more than I gave, and for that, I'm appreciative.
Would you go back? Would you go back to coaching for the right opportunity, or do you just go, you know what, I'm happy with retirement, or whatever you want to call it?
Would I go back? I would go back if there was a place that looked you straight in the eye and said, we are interested in pursuing championships. A lot of them use that, but it's just words. It's not a full out commitment. And I'm not talking about NIL money, because, Jeff, we could go on forever on this one.
Sure.
I think that the mid-level schools down are making a serious mistake.
How so?
They think it's chasing money. And no matter how much money you raise, the big schools, the power schools, are going to raise it. And they're just going to keep raising it until you can't. It's not sustainable. The whole model is not sustainable. But But for a smaller school, a mid-school down, I honestly believe this. If I was to walk in and say, Jeff, I want to recruit you, so I want to ask you some questions. Would you like to be on the path to graduate from college? Everybody's going to answer yes. Would you like to pursue professional basketball at some level? Yes. Would you like to improve every day? Yes. Would you like to improve? Would you like to chase championships with like-minded people? Not the same people, but like-minded people. You're going to answer yes. Okay. Now I have to ask you this. Do you trust that I can get all of those things with you? Not for you, but I can get those things for you. With you. And you're going to answer yes. Okay, so I need you to trust me one more time. If I can get you $100, I'm going to get you $100. I'm not going to get you 90 and hijack the other 10 for another guy who maybe averages his double-double. Okay, we have all those answers, yes?
Sure.
So now you have to answer my question. Now you have to answer this question. How much is this worth? And if you tell me a figure, Jeff, and you say it's worth $200,000, I might say, good luck. Good luck. Because maybe we have budgeted $100,000. And Jeff, no disrespect, but the players that the mid-level schools are recruiting, the guy that they rank 110th, is the same guy at 140, right? Ranked 140. His name is Bob. And you know what? I can get 10 guys at a mid-level school to trust enough that we can be competing for a league championship. I wholeheartedly believe that. Now, is it a lot of work? Yeah, I get that. And I'm not saying, well, it would be too much, but I absolutely am crazy about where I am right now. I'm watching my sons build on the greatness that is the VCU program.
Yeah, I mean, the way things are going, you kind of hit on it there. I mean, it seems like the NIL, the transfer portal, the money, everything going on right now, it seems like it's making it almost impossible for the St. Joe's, the Temples, the Villanovas, like the big five, like the smaller schools that we see in Philadelphia. It seems like it's almost impossible for these schools to compete. I mean, would you agree with that, or would you not agree with that?
I think it all matters on what competing is. If you think that you're going to compete against Maryland or you're going to compete against Connecticut, no. Now Villanova can because they have the history and they have the institutional almost guts, fortitude to say, okay, we can manage this. Our other schools in Philadelphia, I think you have to get in a position to say what will give you the best chance to win a league championship. And that's different than saying we're competing on the same level as St. John's. You're not, because you'll never have that kind of money and you'll never have that kind of support. But this entity, Philadelphia Big Five, college basketball in Philadelphia, is worth it. It's worth, but it has to start, Jeff. It has to be the president of the school, the athletic director of the school, the coach of the school, the board of directors, all have to be pushing in the same direction. It's not what I see. It's not what I think is going on.
I just feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels like the Cinderella stories, those amazing runs from the smaller schools, like that run that you guys went on in 03, 04 with Jameer Nelson and Delonte West and that amazing run that you guys had. It just feels like, and maybe I'm wrong, but like that's just not going to happen anymore from a school like, a St. Joe's or a LaSalle or maybe I'm wrong.
No. The early in the year, very subtly, the big boys they've hijacked scheduling, right? You'll hear many times people from the Atlantic time, well, they won't schedule us. No, they won't. And you know why? Because they figured out the secret sauce. The secret sauce is play each other, because it's not a bad loss if you lose to another one that looks like you. and play the bottom schools and unfortunately run the score up. It's a disgrace, really, that running up the score has become acceptable because of the metrics that are used in getting to the Holy Land. The Holy Land in college basketball is to play in March.
Right.
Play in March. And so um, I still believe that if we can get the idea of, despite paying these kids, and it's pay for play, it's not NIL, it's not name, image, and likeness, it's pay for play. I think that you can still get a group that can pursue, and I keep repeating it, pursue a championship. Now, does that mean you can play the second weekend in March? Unlikely. It's just stacked against you. But as long as you get the opportunity to get in there, we're still somebody out there, Jeff, is going to become, and I say this because of how far away they were from the a blue blood. Somebody out there is going to be Indiana football. Like, seriously, the second
Right.
most losses in the history of college football, and now they're on the brink of playing for a national championship. Why? Because they got a coach and they got an administrator, and they said, here's how we're going to do that. But you have to run your own race. All of the mid-level schools have to run their race. They can't be running a race against the people that are, silver spoons, so to speak.
Yeah, to me, it just feels like everything is so different today. And I even go back, I mean, not to date myself, but I'm a Temple guy, and I remember those great Temple St. Joe's battles and those Big Five battles. And now, Temple is not in the same conference, and it's all over the place. And you look at like where Temple is, like there's no rivals for Temple, right? And so St. Joe's doesn't feel like there's any rivals. I mean, LaSalle's really fallen down. And I just don't know what has happened to college basketball in this city. College basketball used to be king in this city, the Big Five, and there was amazing college, high school basketball players that would come out and stay in town, and whether it was Temple or St. Joe's or Villanova and LaSalle, and it's all gone.
Yeah, it's well, um, what you are referring to is when the game was a game. And now let's call it what it is. The game is a business. And I don't knock, I'm not saying they shouldn't be getting paid. They should, but the collateral damage when this is all said and done, like, and Jeff, you and I are talking as Philadelphians and saying the Big Five could be collateral damage. It doesn't feel right.
Right.
It doesn't feel right. It'd be like somebody saying to you, "Oh, by the way, we've changed the formula. There's no more water ice, so that's gone." And what do you mean a soft pretzel? No, 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 no. We just buy them in a bag, and it hurts. I'll be honest with you, it hurts.
So
And
what advice do you give to your son? Your son coaches at VCU.
mhm.
Obviously, you've taught him well. They're having a nice season so far. What advice, when he comes to you, or over the years, but especially right now, what advice do you give to him, or any other, whether it's a young coach or even maybe
treat,
an experienced coach?
treat people. This is all. I don't care what anything. I don't care what kind of dollar figures you hear. At the end of the day, how you treat people is how you should be measured, and how your program should be measured. How you treat people. How do you treat the star player? How do you treat the disgruntled player? How about their families? Look, it's a fact. You have to deal with their agents. But at the end of the day, it's not Coach Phil Martelli Jr. dealing with Agent Bob. No, it's Phil Jr. with Bob. And if you can live to your foundations, that's what I've always told them. I've told both my sons. It's how you treat people. I don't give a damn about records. I don't care about what somebody wants to say. And you're the hot seat. You're not on the hot seat. You're this guy. You're that guy. You're the hot coming guy. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Nope. You're not the greatest. You're just the latest. But treat people with respect, you'll get respect. And you know what? It's all going to work out when you do it that way. Good things happen to good people.
What was your favorite moment during the run you guys made in 03 and 04? That Elite Eight run was just absolutely magical. The whole city and really felt like the whole country was behind you guys. What was your favorite part of all of that? And I imagine it's hard in that moment to enjoy it because you're at work. But now having, some time away from it, is there a favorite moment when you look back at that?
There's um, moments that still to this day give me chills. I'm a playground rat from Philadelphia, and I look across the court on a Saturday afternoon in Cincinnati, Ohio, playing at Xavier, and Jerry West and Larry Bird were sitting there getting ready to watch my team. It took my breath away. I remember towards maybe the 2/3 of the way through the season, back-to-back weekends, we played LaSalle and Temple in the Palestra. And that's a shrine to college basketball. And for anybody that's been in Philadelphia, all you ever wanted to do was play in that building or coach in that building. And I got a chance to do both of those things. And I came out for those games, and there were no aisles, Jeff. Like, I never saw an aisle. There were so many people in there, not to see me, but to see my team. And there were no aisles. That resonated. And then these things happened at all these different places. Go to church, go to a dry cleaner, stop for gas, driving down City Line Avenue, stop at a light, and somebody in the car next to you beeps and they give you a thumbs up or a smile. You can never, in this business, you can never quantitate that you put smiles on somebody else's face. You don't know what they're going through. And the fact that they could take some pleasure and smile, those things, I can't tell you about specific games, but I know that those smiles, that they are right here and right here the whole time.
Do you ever sit there and go, do you ever run it back in your head and go, man, just one less turnover, one more layup, or one more of this?
One of the things that I do is I bark at myself. Having experienced Juwan Howard and the way that he thought and the way that we grew our offensive packages, and we developed not game plans, but we were like teaching new stuff. And I never did that. And I do sometimes wonder, what if I had just added a few more wrinkles? Would it have been worth one more basket? Right? Would it have been worth one more? And that's all we needed. We needed one more basket to go to the Final Four. But that would be and the other thing is this, not a regret, but the other thought that I have is I hope that those players 20 years ago, I hope that those players recognized in the moment how much joy they were bringing. And you're right, the whole country, because I have boxes and boxes and boxes of letters and phone calls and emails. I hope they understand what they did, because they're on a Mount Rushmore, and they're on a Mount Rushmore in Philadelphia. We have national championship teams. We have teams that were number one at all the different schools. But that team, I would argue, captured as many hearts and as many souls as any team that's ever played in this city. I've often prayed that the players understand what they gave joy to others. And man, is that a powerful gift to give.
Did you have any moments where, you talked about it, that the Palestra looking around, when you're in the Elite Eight or at any point there in the NCAA tournament, are you able to enjoy it for like even a second or no? I mean, are you just so locked in with the job? I mean, I remember talking to Jay Wright. Like if you look at Jay Wright when they win the national championship after Chris Jenkins hits that three, to win that. I mean, Jay is just in coaching mode. He doesn't even enjoy the moment because he's thinking of what's next. When you're in that situation and you're in the NCAA tournament, were you able to enjoy it for a second, or was it just all business, all focus until, okay, the season was over, or now that you've had some time to look back on it?
Well, I think that when you're in a run like that, or anytime you're in the NCAA tournament, you're so zeroed in that you don't kind of step back and say, "Oh, that was really neat," or after reading the book, Aaron Bracey's book, A Soaring Season, and you hear what different people's perspective. There's times man, I would like to have been on campus to see what campus was like while we were doing that. But I was not. I never considered myself like maniacal. I was very regimented on how I did things. So when a game ended, I didn't stop and say, "Oh my gosh, we're 22-0," or whatever our record would be. I would just say, "Okay, we have 2 days. The next day we're going to prepare this way, and we're going to prepare that way." I didn't change anything, as you know. All of our practices were open. I accepted every single solitary radio request, media request, and the only thing is, like some people would say, "Oh yeah, you were promoting what?" Like I had the job that I wanted. It was the only job that I ever wanted. And what did I didn't need to promote myself. And that's like Jay with Villanova. He was in that job. And um, I think that the making sure that the players could be college students, that they could be sons, that they could be boyfriends, that they could be friends, taking some of that off of them. I think that recognizing that there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people that could puff out their chest and lift their head because of something that you're doing. I took that as a responsibility, but not a burden, just a responsibility. That's what I signed up for. So I never stopped and said, "Pinch me because we're here." I, I I never pinched myself and said, "Oh my God, this is the Elite Eight. The next step is the Final Four." No, it was just, okay, we're preparing this just like we would prepare 2 days before any other game.
Yeah, one of your best players on that team, Delonte West, it's been public, his struggles away from the court with mental health and substance abuse. I know you've tried to help him in the past. How much do you feel for him, and how much have you tried to help him over the years?
Well, how much I've tried, that's not a thing. But I will say this, anything that I've done pales in comparison to Mark Cuban.
Sure, yeah, I've heard
Mark,
these
Mark,
amazing
Mark,
stories.
Mark Cuban has gone so far that no one could ever say a word about him. Uh, that's a special, special man. Uh, and other than that, Jeff, I'll just tell you, like, it's heavy on my heart. As much as I have joy when I talk to the players from that team, or players that we've had in high school or in college, and they'll finish the conversation by saying, "Hey, coach, love you, man." Like, to have a male say that to another male, particularly at the age that they're at, I get filled up with such joy. But every single day, I pray for Delonte, and every single day that I think about it, um, it's crushing it. It's. I just had it happen recently. I was doing a broadcast, and I was watching Georgetown practice, and a guy said to me, "Hey, yo, 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 your player, he lives." I go, "Yeah, I know where he lives. He lives on the streets behind a 7-Eleven." And the guy innocently said, "Man, you couldn't help him?" And I couldn't respond. I couldn't say to him, and I don't blame, it's nasty. Addiction and mental health. Everybody out there is going through something. So please, everybody out there, look out for each other. And that's what we try to do. And I'll continue to pray that we get through it. So for as much joy as I get talking to the Jamirs or the Rob Hartshorns or the Pat Carrolls or whatever, it's a pain. It's a pain that stays with me every day.
Yeah, and I know you've tried to, help him over the years. And, speaking of help, you've done a lot of work over the years with Coaches versus Cancer. Why has that been so near and dear to your heart?
Well, it started out as a challenge. 20 some years ago, the NCAA put out a newspaper and they listed the top 100 programs in America that were raising funds for the American Cancer Society and Coaches versus Cancer. And I opened the paper up and read it, and there was not one Philadelphia school on the 100. So I called Fran Dunphy at Penn at the time, and I said, "Dump, this is wrong. Like, we have the best college basketball tradition in the country in the Big Five, and not one of us is on this list. This has to change." Well, now it's changed. Now it's $21 million later. But Jeff, to be honest, we haven't done enough, because someone that watches, someone that you interview, someone walking down your street, they're going to get a diagnosis in the next week to 10 days that they or someone in their family is facing cancer. And why it's so passionate for me? Cancer's a bully. Cancer doesn't discriminate. Cancer doesn't look black, white, doesn't look rich, poor, doesn't look suburbs or city. Doesn't matter, St. Joe's, Villanova, Temple, doesn't matter. Male, female, doesn't matter. So the only way to fight a bullyard on a playground, in the corporate world, or in the disease world is you have to look at it and you have to smack it as hard as you can. And I don't have a medical expertise to do that. But if my voice and my platform and my ideas can raise money, and we can say to these doctors in a true Philadelphia way, "All right, let's go. Come on.
Right.
Come on, give us some good news here." That's what drives me. And it's all the people that we've met and the people that we've lost. They motivate me, because I would look at them and say, "You know what? You're not trying to fight cancer. You're trying to crush cancer. And you're not a survivor. You're a warrior. And if I can line up with a warrior and I can make their chances just a little bit better." Think about this, Jeff. For Coaches versus Cancer, we have a power to make a family or an individual have just one day of a better quality of life. I look at anybody and say, why wouldn't we? And what took us so long to get involved?
Yeah, it's amazing work which you've done over the years with Coaches versus Cancer, and all the Big Five coaches, and I know Fran's heavily involved. What you guys have done, it's never enough, of course, but it's gone an amazing long way to help people that have struggled with cancer, and that, as you say, will continue to be diagnosed every single day. Well, Phil Martelli, great insight. I appreciate sharing some great memories about that great St. Joe's run and some college basketball hot topics, some of the issues going on there. We appreciate it, Phil. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you for including me. I really appreciate it.
Fascinating insight there from former St. Joe's boss. Phil Martelli does a lot of great work in the community, and obviously he is certainly pulling for Delonte West. Very sad story there. Hopefully Delonte West can get some help and, get better, because you can just sense just how painful it is for Phil Martelli. All right, so the big one, of course, tomorrow. Eagles, Commanders, Birds, 4-point favorites to beat the Commanders. Will they get that 2 seed? They could certainly use it to face the Packers at home, and guaranteed 2 home playoff games. Eagles, they need some help. Of course, they need some help from the Bears to beat the Lions. We've talked a lot about that. Eagles Commanders tomorrow. The backups are going to be going, including Tanner McKee. He will get the start for Jalen Hurts, who will rest up for the start of the playoffs. Will they get the 49ers? Will they get the Rams or the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round? That'll do it for us today on BetParx Saturday. For my producer, Andrew Frazier, I'm Jeff Skversky, live from the Sportsbook at Parx Casino in Ben Salem on the PHLY Sports YouTube page. We will see you next week right here at Parx Casino. Have a great day.
We all silly like the mayor.